Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you today that you are not late. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be. Many of us look at our lives and feel like we should be further along. We see others succeeding, making progress, and we wonder, why am I still here? Why hasn't it happened for me yet? But I came to tell you today, you were not delayed, you were being prepared. You see, God never wastes time, but He does invest it. And when He invests time in you, it is because He is preparing something greater than you could ever imagine. Many people misunderstand the difference between a delay and a denial. They assume that when something does not happen according to their desired timeline, it must mean that God has rejected their request or that their dreams are not valid. But I want you to understand today that a delay is not a denial. It is often divine preparation. When God delays something, it is not because He is punishing you or withholding blessings from you. Instead, He is preparing you to receive what He has already set aside for you. You see, God does not operate according to human time. We are bound by clocks and calendars, but He is governed by seasons and purpose. What may seem like a delay to you is simply God's way of ensuring that everything aligns perfectly. If God gave you what you asked for the moment you desired it, you might not have the capacity to sustain it. A premature blessing can become a burden rather than a gift. A house given too soon to someone who lacks financial discipline will become a place of stress rather than joy. A position of leadership given to someone without the wisdom to handle it will lead to destruction instead of success. This is why God does not always give you what you want when you want it. He knows that if He blesses you too soon, it could crush you. Instead, He takes you through a process, a refining, a training, a development that ensures you can handle the very thing you are praying for. The delay is not a punishment, it is preparation. Think about a child who desires to drive a car. The child may see the vehicle and believe that they are ready, but no responsible parent would hand over the keys without first ensuring that the child has been trained, licensed, and prepared for the responsibility of driving. The delay in receiving the car is not a denial of the child's request. It is a period of development to ensure that when the car is given, it does not lead to destruction. In the same way, God will not give you the keys to your destiny until He has developed the wisdom, character, and strength within you to handle it. When we look at the lives of great men and women in history, we see that their paths were marked by seasons of waiting. Joseph had a dream of greatness at a young age, but he was not placed in leadership immediately. Instead, he was thrown into a pit by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and placed in prison. To the natural eye, it seemed like his life was filled with endless delays. But in reality, God was preparing him. Each challenge, each moment of hardship was refining his character, teaching him patience, and developing his leadership skills. By the time Joseph was elevated to the position of prime minister in Egypt, he had been fully prepared to handle the responsibility. The delay was not a denial, it was necessary preparation. Moses was called to be a deliverer, but before he could lead a nation, he spent 40 years in the wilderness tending sheep. That season of solitude was not wasted time, it was training. He was learning how to lead, how to listen to God, and how to develop the patience required to guide the people of Israel. Had Moses attempted to lead Israel without that period of preparation, he would have failed. Even Jesus, the Son of God, spent 30 years in preparation before stepping into his 3.5 years of ministry. If Jesus himself did not bypass the process of preparation, then surely we must also go through seasons of refinement before stepping into our purpose. The delay is not there to discourage you, it is there to prepare you. If God has you waiting, it is because He is working on something within you. There are lessons you need to learn, skills you need to develop, and areas of your character that need to be refined. Often we pray for God to give us things, but we do not recognize that we first need to be made ready to receive them. God is more interested in who you are becoming than in simply giving you what you ask for. Many people give up during their season of preparation because they mistake it for rejection. But I urge you today, do not lose faith. Do not allow impatience to push you into something before you are ready. The worst thing that can happen is for you to arrive at a place you do not have the character to sustain. Many people have lost their destiny because they rushed ahead of God's timing. The foundation was not strong enough to support the weight of the blessing, and so everything collapsed. But if you allow yourself to be prepared, if you submit to the process, then when your moment comes, you will be able to stand firm. There are times when the delay is not just about preparing you, it is also about preparing the environment for you. Sometimes, God is orchestrating things behind the scenes, aligning opportunities, moving people, and setting the stage for your arrival. Had Joseph been released from prison too soon, he would not have been in the right position to interpret Pharaoh's dream and step into his destiny. The timing had to be perfect. Had David become king the moment he was anointed, he would not have been ready to rule effectively. He had to go through battles, betrayals, and trials that shaped him into the leader he needed to be. God is intentional. He is not delaying you out of cruelty or neglect. He is working all things together for your good, but you must trust the process. Instead of complaining about the delay, start asking God, what are you trying to teach me in this season? What areas of my life need development? What skills do I need to sharpen? Because when the appointed time comes, you will not have time to prepare. You must already be ready. So today I encourage you, do not be discouraged by what seems like a delay. You are not being denied. You are being positioned. You are being refined. You are being made ready for something greater than you can imagine. Trust the timing of God, because when the moment arrives, you will see that every second of waiting was worth it. Many people desire blessings before they are ready to handle them. They pray for success, for influence, for opportunities, and for prosperity, but they do not realize that receiving something too soon can be more dangerous than not receiving it at all. A blessing given at the wrong time can become a burden instead of a benefit. This is why God does not always answer prayers immediately or open doors before their appointed time. He is not withholding from you, He is protecting you. Imagine a young child asking for the keys to a car. The child sees adults driving and believes they, too, should have the privilege of driving. They are eager, excited, and convinced that they are ready. But a wise parent knows that giving the child those keys before they have learned to drive would lead to disaster. The child lacks the skill, the knowledge, and the responsibility required to operate a vehicle safely. It is not that the parent does not want the child to drive. It is simply that they want the child to be ready before taking on that responsibility. The same principle applies to life. Many people ask God for things they are not prepared for. They desire leadership but have not yet developed the character to handle power. They want financial success but have not yet learned how to manage money. They want relationships but have not yet matured emotionally or spiritually to sustain them. When a blessing comes too soon, instead of elevating a person, it can destroy them. History and scripture are filled with examples of people who received something before their time and suffered because of it. Take, for example, the story of the prodigal son. He was given his inheritance while he was still immature. Instead of managing it wisely, he squandered everything in reckless living. What should have been a blessing became a curse because he lacked the wisdom to handle it. Had he waited, had he allowed himself to be prepared, the outcome of his life would have been different. Another example is King Saul. He was chosen as the first king of Israel, but he was not ready for the weight of the responsibility. He lacked patience, discipline, and obedience. Instead of following God's instructions, he took matters into his own hands. His impatience led to his downfall. His kingship, which should have been a blessing, became a burden because he was not prepared for the position. Contrast this with David, who was also anointed as king but had to go through years of trials and testing before he actually ascended to the throne. He fought battles, endured betrayal, and learned leadership in the wilderness. By the time he became king, he was ready to handle the responsibility. The difference between Saul and David was not their calling, it was their preparation. One received kingship prematurely and failed. The other was prepared and thrived. The same pattern can be seen in modern life. Many athletes, entertainers, and business people achieve success quickly but fall just as fast because they did not have the character to sustain it. Some win large sums of money through the lottery, yet within a few years they are bankrupt. Why? Because they receive wealth before they develop the wisdom to manage it. Others gain fame but are destroyed by the pressure because they lack the emotional and mental maturity to handle the spotlight. A premature blessing can also affect relationships. Many people rush into marriage before they have developed the patience, selflessness, and maturity required for a successful union. Instead of being a source of joy, the relationship becomes a source of pain because the foundation was not strong. Others desire children but are not yet ready to be parents, and the weight of the responsibility overwhelms them. When God delays something, it is not because He wants to deny you, it is because He wants to develop you. If you pray for something and it does not happen immediately, it is not a sign that God has forgotten you. It is a sign that He is preparing you. The worst thing that could happen is for you to receive something you are not ready to handle. There is a reason why fruit does not ripen overnight. If you pick a fruit before its time, it is bitter, hard, and lacks the nutrients that make it beneficial. But if you allow it to mature naturally, it becomes sweet, nourishing, and fulfilling. The same is true for your blessings. When you try to force something to happen before its appointed time, it will not bring you joy. It will bring you stress. But when you allow yourself to go through the process, when you submit to preparation, when you trust God's timing, the blessing will come in its fullness. The process of preparation is not always easy, but it is necessary. A builder does not construct a skyscraper without first laying a strong foundation. If the foundation is weak, the entire building will collapse under its own weight. Likewise, if your character is not strong enough to support the blessings you desire, those blessings will break you instead of build you. Many people see only the outward manifestation of success, but they do not see the years of preparation behind it. They see a great leader, but do not see the struggles that shaped them. They see a thriving business, but do not see the countless failures that taught the entrepreneur resilience. They see a strong marriage, but do not see the sacrifices and growth that made it possible. Nothing great is built overnight. Every lasting blessing requires preparation. It is easy to become impatient in the waiting season. It is easy to look at others and wonder why they seem to be progressing faster than you. But comparison is dangerous. What God has for you is for you, and it will come at the right time. If you try to rush the process, you may end up with something you are not ready to sustain. Instead of complaining about the delay, use the time to develop yourself. If you're waiting for financial increase, use the time to learn about money management. If you're waiting for a relationship, use the time to grow in emotional and spiritual maturity. If you're waiting for a leadership position, use the time to develop wisdom and humility. Do not waste your waiting season. Use it to become the person who is ready to handle the blessing when it comes. God's timing is perfect. He knows when you are ready, and He knows when the conditions are right. If something has not happened yet, trust that there is a reason. Trust that God is preparing you for something greater than you can imagine. The waiting is not a punishment, it is a preparation. When the blessing comes, you will not only receive it, you will be able to sustain it. Many people misunderstand seasons of waiting. They see waiting as wasted time, as a frustrating pause in their journey towards success and fulfillment. But what if I told you that your waiting season is not a delay, but a divine training ground? What if I told you that every moment of waiting is actually working for your good, shaping you, strengthening you, and preparing you for something greater? Too often, people become impatient in their waiting season because they do not understand its purpose. They see others moving forward while they feel stuck, and they begin to question whether God has forgotten them. But the truth is, when God has you in a waiting season, He is not holding you back. He is preparing you for what is ahead. Think about the way a soldier is trained before being sent into battle. No military sends an untrained, unprepared soldier to war. Before a soldier ever steps onto the battlefield, they go through intense training. They learn discipline, endurance, and strategy. They are tested physically and mentally to ensure they can withstand the pressures of war. If a soldier refuses training and demands to go into battle unprepared, they will be easily defeated. In the same way, if you step into your destiny without proper preparation, you may not have the strength or wisdom to handle it. In your waiting season, God is refining your character. He is teaching you patience, perseverance, and trust. He is removing pride, fear, and selfishness so that when you step into your next season, you will not crumble under the weight of responsibility. Many people desire success, leadership, and influence, but they do not realize that those things require strength of character. If you have a weak foundation, the pressure of success will break you. But if you allow yourself to be trained in your waiting season, you will develop the endurance necessary to sustain the blessings that are coming. Look at the life of Joseph. When he was a young man, he had a dream that he would be a great leader. But instead of stepping into leadership immediately, he was thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused and imprisoned. From the outside, it looked like his life was full of setbacks. But in reality, every challenge was part of his training. In Potiphar's house, he learned management and leadership. In prison, he developed resilience, humility, and wisdom. By the time he was elevated to a position of power, he was fully prepared to lead. Had he gone straight from the dream to the palace without the training, he would not have been able to handle the responsibility. Waiting seasons also teach dependence on God. When everything is happening quickly, it is easy to rely on your own strength and ability. But when you are in a waiting season, you are forced to trust God's timing and guidance. You learn that His ways are higher than yours and that He knows exactly what He is doing. It is in these seasons that your faith is strengthened. When you cannot see the full picture, but you choose to trust anyway, you develop a faith that is unshakable. Many people want to skip the process and jump straight into their destiny, but the process is what makes you ready. A seed does not become a tree overnight. It must first be planted in the soil, where it is hidden, unseen, and buried in darkness. But in that hidden place, something powerful is happening. The seed is growing roots, establishing a strong foundation beneath the surface. If a tree grows too quickly without deep roots, the first storm will knock it down. But if it takes time to develop strong roots, it will stand firm no matter what comes against it. Some of the greatest leaders, innovators, and history makers went through long seasons of waiting before stepping into their calling. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before leading Israel. David was anointed as king but had to wait years before taking the throne. Even Jesus spent 30 years in preparation for a ministry that lasted only 3.5 years. If these great figures had to go through seasons of training, how much more do we need time to be prepared? Waiting seasons also reveal your true motives. When things do not happen as quickly as you want, do you still remain faithful? Do you still serve with excellence, or do you become bitter and discouraged? Many people only want the reward without the refinement, but God is more concerned with who you are becoming than with what you achieve. He will not promote you prematurely if it will harm you in the long run. This is why some doors do not open immediately. It is not that you are forgotten or overlooked. It is that you are being protected from stepping into something you are not ready for. A blessing given too soon can feel like a curse, but a blessing given at the right time is a gift that brings joy, stability, and fulfillment. In your waiting season, do not waste time complaining or comparing yourself to others. Instead, ask yourself, what can I learn in this season? How can I grow? What skills can I develop? What areas of my character need refining? Your waiting season is your training ground, and if you embrace it, you will emerge stronger, wiser, and ready for what God has prepared for you. Too many people try to escape the waiting season instead of embracing it. They look for shortcuts, but shortcuts lead to shallow results. Anything of great value takes time to develop. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Gold is purified in fire. Strong warriors are trained through discipline. If you are in a waiting season, it is because something valuable is being developed in you. The key is to remain faithful where you are. If you are working in a small role, do it with excellence. If you are in a season of learning, study diligently. If you are building something, focus on the foundation. Everything you do in this season is preparing you for the next. If you are faithful with the little, you will be entrusted with more. Often, people think they are ready when they are not. They believe they can handle a certain level of responsibility, but only God truly knows their capacity. This is why He allows waiting seasons, to stretch you, to grow you, and to prepare you for what is coming. The worst thing that can happen is for you to step into something prematurely and not be able to sustain it. But if you allow yourself to be trained in the waiting, you will have the endurance to stand strong when the blessing arrives. Your waiting season is not a waste. It is not a punishment. It is not a sign that you are forgotten. It is your training ground. If you embrace it, it will shape you into the person you need to be for the next level of your destiny. The preparation may be uncomfortable, the process may be long, but in the end it will all be worth it. You are being made ready for something greater than you can imagine. Trust the process, stay faithful, and know that your waiting is not in vain. Many people live their lives waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity, or the perfect conditions to take action. They assume that their time is in the distant future, that they need more preparation, or that they must wait until everything aligns perfectly. But what if I told you that your moment is not in the future, it is now? What if I told you that everything you have been through, every trial, every lesson, and every experience has been preparing you for this very moment? The truth is, opportunities do not wait for you to feel ready. Doors open when you least expect them, and if you are not prepared, you will miss them. One of the greatest mistakes people make is thinking they have more time than they actually do. They tell themselves, one day I will step into my purpose. One day I will start that business. One day I will answer the calling on my life. But one day is not guaranteed. Every moment you delay taking action is a moment lost. There are people waiting for the gifts and talents that only you can offer. There are lives that need your wisdom, your voice, and your impact. But if you keep waiting, you will never step into the fullness of what you were created to do. You must understand that preparation is not just about waiting, it is about actively getting ready. Many people say they are waiting on God, but in reality, God is waiting on them. He has already placed within you everything you need to step into your purpose. The skills, the wisdom, the connections, and the anointing are already inside of you, but you must have the courage to act. If you are waiting for a sign, this is it. Your moment is now. Look at the story of David. He was anointed as king at a young age, but he did not sit around waiting for his time to come. He spent years training, fighting battles, and developing his leadership skills. So when the moment came for him to face Goliath, he was ready. He did not need extra time to prepare because he had been preparing all along. Had he hesitated or doubted himself, he would have missed his moment. This is what happens to many people. Opportunities come, but they are not ready to seize them. They lack confidence, they second-guess themselves, and they allow fear to hold them back. But the truth is, hesitation can cost you your destiny. The doors that God opens will not stay open forever. If you are not ready to step through them, someone else will. Consider the story of Esther. She was placed in the palace at a critical time when her people needed deliverance. She could have remained silent, fearful of the risks involved in speaking up, but her uncle reminded her, "Who knows if you were placed in the kingdom for such a time as this?" That one moment required her to be bold, to step out in faith, and to recognize that she was in the right place at the right time. If she had not seized her moment, history would have unfolded differently. Many people want the rewards of success without the responsibility of preparation. They want to be great, but they do not want to go through the process that makes them great. They want influence, but they do not want to put in the work. They want financial blessings, but they do not develop financial discipline. But the truth is, you do not rise to the level of your dreams. You rise to the level of your preparation. If you are waiting for a great opportunity, start preparing now. If you want to be a leader, start developing leadership skills. If you want to be financially free, start managing your resources wisely. If you want to impact lives, start where you are with what you have. There is no more time to waste. Every moment is an opportunity to grow, to improve, and to move closer to your destiny. Often people miss their moment because they are looking for something spectacular. But many great opportunities come in simple, ordinary ways. David's opportunity came through a battle. Esther's opportunity came through a crisis. Joseph's opportunity came through adversity. Do not despise small beginnings, because sometimes the greatest breakthroughs start in unexpected ways. Your moment is now, but you must recognize it. You must have the discernment to see that the preparation you have been going through was never wasted. The pain, the struggles, and the lessons were all working together to get you ready for such a time as this. The things that seemed like setbacks were actually setups for something greater. Fear is one of the greatest enemies of stepping into your moment. Many people do not take action because they are afraid of failure, afraid of rejection, or afraid of the unknown. But fear is simply an illusion designed to keep you stagnant. The only way to overcome fear is to take action in spite of it. When David faced Goliath, he could have focused on how big the giant was, but instead, he focused on how big his God was. Confidence is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to move forward despite fear. If you are waiting to feel completely ready, you will never take action. No one starts out fully prepared. The most successful people in history stepped out before they had all the answers. They learned as they went. They adjusted along the way. But they did not wait until they felt comfortable. Comfort is the enemy of progress. If you stay in your comfort zone, you will never grow. Growth requires discomfort. It requires stretching, taking risks, and stepping into the unknown. But once you take that step, you will realize that everything you need has already been placed within you. Do not let excuses rob you of your destiny. Many people blame circumstances, lack of resources, or lack of support for why they have not stepped into their purpose. But history is full of people who had every reason to fail but chose to rise anyway. They had limited resources, but they found a way. They had obstacles, but they pushed through. They had setbacks, but they did not quit. The difference between those who succeed and those who do not is not talent. It is willingness. Those who are willing to take action, willing to learn, and willing to enjoy the process are the ones who ultimately walk into their moment. The truth is, life will never hand you the perfect conditions. If you are waiting for everything to align perfectly before you act, you will be waiting forever. At some point, you must make a decision to move forward with what you have. The moment will not wait for you, so you must be ready. Your gifts, your talents, and your abilities were not given to you to be hidden. They were given to you to be used. The world is waiting for what you have to offer. The people who need your voice, your vision, and your leadership are waiting for you to step into your calling. You were not created to sit on the sidelines of life. You were created to make an impact. So the question is, are you ready? Are you ready to step into the opportunities that are coming your way? Are you ready to take the risk, to trust God's timing, and to embrace your purpose? Because your moment is now. Everything you have been through has led you to this point. Do not let fear, doubt, or hesitation hold you back. Step forward with confidence, knowing that you were made for this. The time is now. The door is open, and the world is waiting. Be ready.